Good evening, everyone. I'm Jonathan Oleski with JMOR, and welcome to tonight's episode of The Upside. It's my pleasure to introduce our hosts as our show is about to begin. Beth Goldsmith, Chair-elect of the Associated Jewish Federation of Baltimore, and Dr. Scott Rifkin, publisher of JMOR. Beth and Scott, take it away.
Thanks, Jonathan. And again, welcome to The Upside. This is our virtual show brought to you by the Associated Jewish Federation of Baltimore and JMOR Magazine to keep our Baltimore Jewish community informed during this time of uncertainty. We'll be coming to you twice a week with episodes you can view live on Zoom, Facebook, and YouTube. Each episode will tackle some of today's most pressing topics, feature some of the community's leading experts, and answer the questions that are on all of our minds. Today, we'll be talking about food insecurity. Prior to the coronavirus epidemic, an estimated 1 in 4 individuals living in Baltimore lacked access to good, healthy food. That number has surely increased over the past few months with growing unemployment. In addition, more than 300,000 Maryland children rely on meals received during the school day to avoid going hungry. As schools closed to prevent the spread of coronavirus, these children became even more vulnerable. What are we doing as a community to help alleviate food insecurity? Scott, please introduce our guests.
Thanks, Beth. I appreciate that. We're thrilled to welcome Lisa Boudleau, CEO of Kai, and Lynn. Now, I don't know if it's Lynn E or Linny, so you're going to have to help me there. Which is it?
Linny.
Linny. Okay, good. I know I had to leave a little bit of space in between the Lynn and the E, so that's good. So thank you, Linny. Linny Khan, who's founder and executive director of the Baltimore Hunger Project. As executive director of Kai, an associate agency, Lisa's working closely with community partners to build stronger neighborhoods in Northwest Baltimore. Linny, I think I got it right, created the Baltimore Hunger Project to eliminate the growing problem of weekend childhood hunger by establishing partnerships with community members, organizations, and decision makers. So these are two pretty amazing folks, and we appreciate you both being here today. Beth, you want to kick off the first question?
Sure, so I'm going to start with Linny and say, Linny, tell us briefly about your organization.
Sure. So Baltimore Hunger Project started 5 years ago, and we are dedicated to eliminating weekend childhood hunger. And what we do is we provide weekend food packages to kids in Baltimore County and Baltimore City schools who are considered food insecure, those who receive free breakfast and lunch Monday through Friday. The bags that we send home are to bridge the gap from Friday afternoon until Monday. And so before COVID, we were supporting 648 students in 24 schools in Baltimore City and Baltimore County. And for the last 10 weeks, we've been supporting 2,300 children every week.
So let me ask you a quick question. Where's all the food come from? Where's the money for the food, and where does the food itself come from?
So it's a really good question. So we were purchasing, I would say, about 85% of our food from the Maryland Food Bank prior to COVID. And now with the food supply chain interruption, we are down to about 10% of our food from the Maryland Food Bank. And the bulk of our food we're now having to purchase at retail from Wegmans, from Sam's Club, BJ's, different stores around the community. And so our funding comes from individual donors as well as emergency grants, especially during this time.
Have any of those stores just stepped up and been helpful in pricing? Let's thank anybody who's out there who's been actually, who's been a good citizen in all this.
So I would say Wegmans has been amazing, an amazing partner to us. In particular, the Owings Mills store with Natalie Ray, she's the manager. But we've also had a lot of luck with Sam's Club, pretty much the Sam's Club all around Baltimore. We go to all of them.
Very
That's
good.
Incredible and great and good to hear. Can I jump over to Lisa? Hi, Lisa. Good to see you. And tell us a little bit about Kai's programming for food and how perhaps things are changing with what's going on.
Great. Thank you, Beth. So good to be here. So CHI is an acronym standing for Community Housing Assistance, Inc. We're a community development agency, a housing development agency focused in Northwest Baltimore. We actually pre-COVID were not in the food insecurity business, but we are in the community business and we're in the connection business. And so as soon as COVID hit, which was such a disruption to the typical way that we have worked in the community, the first thing we did was get on the phone. So we called seniors that we serve, and we called seniors who live in the buildings that we own and operate, and we called neighborhood associations so that we could just connect to the people that we serve with the same goal of strengthening community and being a resource to people as they're living their lives, and just to ask them, what do they need? And food was the number one need that we heard just across the board, really in all of the phone calls. I would say a connection to other people. We heard a lot about isolation and loneliness, which continues to be an issue, but between the two of them, the connection and food, and just such a complex issue. So we knew we needed to do something to really mobilize and be a part of meeting that need.
All right, well, I'll continue then to delve into what's going on. Lynn, you just said that things are a little different since COVID. And Lisa, you weren't even in the food business before that. So clearly the COVID crisis has changed both of your business models. And I guess what I really want to know is what resources are out there and what can the rest of us do to help you guys? Lisa, you want to start?
Sure, absolutely. So in response to the need that we heard of access to food, we first looked at our own resources, frankly. So we do typically have transportation resources. And, as we were saying, just business models are turning upside down. So we run shuttles and they primarily serve seniors. So we were no longer able to safely run the shuttles. We have a volunteer driver transportation program. This is one-on-one personalized rides to doctors, to grocery, and we weren't able to run that as well. So we had some resources that we developed that actually were used a fair amount to get people to the grocery store, in addition to other places that they needed to go. And we were able to mobilize those resources. So our shuttles, our highway is the name of our transportation program, so our highway staff. And we also run a senior home repair program, and we have vans. So we had vehicles and we had transportation. So that was a key element for us. I think a lot of agencies have experienced this shift in programs, and and the need for staff to really be flexible and to pivot and to use their drive and their mission to serve the community in other ways. And so we had staff that sort of upended the work that they were doing and kind of threw themselves into our food pantry program. We are so lucky to be an agency of the Associated System, and the Associated has run a beautiful, wonderful emergency campaign, and that campaign has really supported our needs. So when you talk about trying to serve people who have such an immediate need, and in the past about 6-7 weeks, we have served over 1,500 people with food delivery, and this is fresh produce, this is shelf stable products, and also some household supplies. So to get a program like that up and running so quickly, we really not only had to rely on our own resources, but the support of the Associated and our partner agencies as well. So it's really, as always, but maybe more so than ever, really takes the community pulling together to meet the need.
Thanks. And speaking of community, Lenny, I know you depend a lot on volunteers. You want to speak to that, about the people engaged even in the neighborhoods?
Sure. So we differ a little because we are a volunteer-based organization. We don't have any staff or we don't have employees. And so we do rely heavily on our volunteers, and normally things have been totally fine before COVID, but with the CDC regulations, we've only been allowed to have 10 volunteers at a time in our warehouse. So when we would normally have 20 to 25 volunteers assembling, let's say 600 food bags in a session, we now have only 10 people to do the same amount, if not more. So we really had to pivot our whole business model. I would say we were focused on weekend hunger, and I think we always knew that hunger was a problem. And now with the schools closing, seems like everybody now knows that this problem exists. And so we're fortunate enough that we do not have a shortage of volunteers. We've been really lucky in that sense that the community has stepped up all over to help us, whether it's packing our food bags, it's going grocery shopping for us, it's making notes of encouragement, helping us provide our kids with things other than just food. For example, yesterday we sent out 2,500 books to the kids, because many of these kids, not only are they not eating, but they're not getting the same academic instruction that perhaps some children in more affluent areas are getting. And so we gave the families an opportunity to pick out books. Parents and children were able to take home several books yesterday. And it was such a gift for them and for the parents to have that experience.
Thanks. Scott, I think you got bumped for a minute, but you're back. Please.
I was actually very impressed, by the way, when you saw that I was talking, but there was no sound coming out, that you jumped right in. So I was very impressed. You're becoming a pro. I like this.
Thank you very much.
That was great. Let me ask you both. This question is really for both of you. How can the community help? Dollars, volunteers, food? Do you want people to donate food? I mean, help me understand how the community can be of help. Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure, I'll go first. Dollars always, right? So these programs take a lot of resources to run. So this is, as we talked about, it's food for sure, it's staff time, it's the actual transportation to get the food to the people who need it. So dollars for sure. As I mentioned before, we're very fortunate to be a part of the associated system, and the associated emergency campaign has really been supportive. We have also had some support from foundation partners. The foundation community has stepped up in such a big way in this time of really all pulling together to fight the pandemic, and not only with additional resources, but flexibility with current resources. So agencies really appreciate that. The other thing that I would say, I mean, there's absolutely volunteer opportunities, like Lenny mentioned. We, in addition to our mobile food pantry, we partnered with Baltimore City to add in a food distribution at Falstaff Elementary Middle. And so we are getting food donated for that food distribution, but it does take a lot of volunteers to get the food out. This morning, it's a weekly distribution on Thursdays, and this morning we distributed 300 boxes of food inside of 35 minutes. And we served 150 families. So it certainly does take a lot of effort, and that's a place where volunteers can be helpful. The one other thing I would say to the community who may be listening is one thing you can do is really connect your loved ones to resources. So there are people who need and who aren't connected and don't know how to fill that need. And there really are opportunities in the community, but it takes that connection. It takes that and people who are in need may not be asking. So just to really check in on your loved ones, on your neighbors, and make sure they're connected to the resources that they need.
Very good. Lenny, what's your answer to that same question? How can the community be of help?
So short term, it's certainly money. I would say we normally spend about $3,500 on food a week when we're supporting 650 students, and we are now spending close to $12,000 a week on food. So it's a significant increase. I would say though, for long term, this problem isn't going away. We have an economy that is going to take a long time to recover. We have families where one or two parents may or may not be going to work anytime soon. And so we're seeing more and more families come to our distributions on Wednesdays and Fridays. New faces are coming through and they're telling stories about how difficult, or this is our first time here or our second time here. And so long term, I would say it's probably money again, in addition to the short term, because we want to be consistent. We want the kids to know that every week they're getting food from us. They can count on us when so many things you cannot count on. I want them to know they can count on us and our food.
Very good. Do you want donations of food? I know you want volunteers and money. Do you want food donations as well?
So we're really specific in the food that we provide. And the reason that is we want the kids to feel independent with the food that we give them. And so it's kid friendly, it's nutritious, it's pull top food, it's items that kids enjoy eating. And so while we're happy to have food donations, if it doesn't work in our food bags, we usually then share it with other organizations. And I will say we have had to change our menu because we're having difficulty sourcing our regular food items.
Give me an example of what would be in a bag that went to a family.
Sure. So inside a bag is typically 4 cans of protein, including a can of chicken or tuna. It would be mac and cheese or lasagna, box of cereal, box of milk, box of juice, Kind Bar, Cliff Bar, granola bar, fruit snacks, applesauce pouch, beef jerky, oatmeal pack, pretty much as we can fit into a Ziploc bag as possible.
Wonderful. And Lisa, maybe the same question from you. What would a family typically be seeing when they work with you?
Right. So we've been, I would agree with Linny that when you are working toward getting food out to many people, and you have a system sort of, that it is much easier it really kind of makes the program run smoother, to be able to have the donations of food and be able to make available the stable boxes, to the same boxes really, to all the recipients. So one of the big things that we have focused on, because the majority of the people that we are serving are seniors, and we're really concerned with their nutrition, and we're really concerned with getting them extra fresh fruit and vegetables, because we do want to be a part of keeping them healthy, boosting their immune system, because we know that they're extra vulnerable really to getting any virus, and certainly this virus. And so we have partnered with Hungry Harvest, and their boxes of beautiful fresh fruit and vegetables, in addition to the shelf stable items, and also some household supplies as well. And one thing I would say is not to discount the value that we're delivering in having seniors know that somebody cares about them. So we hear from the people that we serve, they open up their boxes and they see this beautiful, colorful food, fresh, nutritious food, and they immediately go in their minds to, my community cares about me. And that's typically what we hear from them, even more than I'm not hungry anymore. It is an expression of care. And that feels great for us, because as I mentioned in the beginning of the program, the other need that we hear is that loneliness and that isolation. And when we can make a senior feel that someone cares about them and is thinking about them, we're actually solving for both of those needs at the same time.
You're feeding the mind as well as the stomach. It's very nice.
Yeah, and I was going to say the same thing. Obviously, Linny, I saw you nodding while Lisa was speaking. And so obviously for school children, this is also that connection is really important. Would you speak to that a little?
Sure. So inside each of our food bags, we put a note of encouragement that has been made, designed by, created by people in the community. And so for the last 10 weeks, we have had a handwritten note that goes inside each bag. And it's been so impactful for the families and the kids who receive the bags. We've actually had families make notes to give to us so that we can then put them in other people's bags. So the same thing like Lisa said, the impact that our families, the children that we're supporting, they feel cared for, and they feel that, hunger is invisible normally, and we don't know who eats and who doesn't eat. And it can be very difficult to ask for help. And so before COVID, the children that we supported were anonymous. Our food would go to the guidance counselors, the children were identified by the guidance counselors, and the food was slipped into their backpacks so that their dignity was preserved. And so now the model is so different because our volunteers are interfacing with the kids and having these wonderful experiences by seeing the gratitude and hearing things from the families and the stories that the kids are sharing about what's happening to them while they're home or what their needs are. So it's just been a very positive but very different experience seeing the families every week.
Are you able to keep up with the need, both of you? Your need, your service population is a little different, obviously, but are you each able to keep up with the requests that are out there?
No, we are not.
Are you turning people away, Lenny?
So yes, we are. Some of our locations, we run out of food well before the people stop coming. And I would say in the beginning, it would be about 2 hours by the time our food would be gone. Now it's maybe 15, 20 minutes, maybe 30 minutes, it depends. And we do have to turn people away, and it's heartbreaking because we would love to be able to do more. We just aren't able to do so. And one of our biggest challenges is Baltimore County Schools, the Office of Food and Nutrition, stopped providing food to Baltimore County school sites on Fridays. And that's been since the beginning of April. So when we go to our 9 sites, we are the only food provider for those families.
And they did
Beth,
good.
just to interrupt, I have a question from a Facebook viewer for both our guests tonight. So what lasting changes to your organizations do you see coming out of the COVID-19 pandemic, even after things get back to normal? So Lisa, could we start with you?
Sure, absolutely. Like anything, there are a lot of challenges, but there are also a lot of silver linings. And so some of the lasting silver lining effects are the work in the pandemic has absolutely forced us together, almost more than it's forced us apart. So we're not physically together, but we have got to do what we do in partnership. And so we have been able to deepen partnerships with other agencies, with community, with the city, with the county, and those partnerships, because we have really kind of solved issues together, are deep, and they will continue. Our ability to reach out to the people that we serve and talk to them one-on-one about what they need, and then turn around and meet that need, has really deepened the relationships with the community. And it's made us sort of look at what we do a little bit differently. I mean, we're a community development organization. We do a lot of events. We do a lot of gathering of a lot of people together. Well, when that's not possible, and we've really had to connect one-on-one, we've noticed what we've learned from them and what they've learned from us, and the quality of that relationship, which is different. And so I do think that we will be doing a lot more one-on-one. I would say also, and especially again, because we serve seniors, the transition to relying on technology could be really, even more tricky than for the general population. Fortunately, we had the foresight to create a technology hub through our Meyerberg Senior Center several years ago, and that has come in handy for sure. And we have one-on-one, again, the one-on-one is so critical here, but we have one-on-one really helped people to bridge the gap and to use technology. And we're finding how with that one-on-one help, it is doable, and how important it is. And we feel like even when people are able to come back together, that there will be that ability to connect with people. If somebody, has surgery and has to stay home for a few months, it is no longer going to be, we'll see you when you get better. We will be able to reach out and connect to people, meet them where they are, which I think is really critical.
Great. Lenny, can you talk a little bit about the changes, post-COVID that your organization might experience?
So I mentioned this earlier about the awareness and how we always knew it was a problem. I think our change is going to be, we're not just weekend hunger. We are going to figure out how are we going to support our families and our children during the week. I'm not exactly sure what that looks like yet. There's so many unknowns. We're not even sure what's going to happen with the summer and feeding kids during the summer, whether they'll go back to school or not. I think also you mentioned the feeding bodies and minds. That's actually our tagline. And what we have found is there are so many ways to reach these kids in addition to food, and helping these kids to have the same thing that my kids have had or I have had. And I think we're open to discussion about it. We're brainstorming about what it looks like. An example for the fall is we're partnering with somebody who teaches kids how to grow salad items and to be able to do that at home. And that ties in with healthy eating and learning how food is grown and how important it is to stay healthy and to eat well and how to take care of yourself. So we're really trying to expand on that. Hopefully things go back to normal.
Thank you.
So here's the question. We're not at all sure there's even school starting in September.
Mm-hmm.
That's a concern.
Yeah.
The University of California system already announced they're not opening any of the university campuses in California come September, and they're sort of a leader on this stuff. The local school systems may very well not be open first thing in September, maybe not until second semester. Are you guys starting to look at how you handle that? Because the problem's only going to get deeper.
We are. Our plans for the summer are to continue to purchase food as if we are distributing for 2,300 children, so that we can continue what we're doing when we find out what's going on. So yes, we are making plans. I know there's a sweet spot between 648 children and 2,300. We haven't figured that out yet, but we are planning to. We're not giving up. We're not giving up because the problem isn't going away.
And I know, Lisa, that High is able to access grants and government programming as well. Linny, are you able to do that? Do you do any kind of political lobbying for your cause?
No, but that's also on the table. So, I mean, as Beth knows, I started this in my house, and we started with 30 kids in 2 schools. And now 5 years later, we're in a warehouse, and all of a sudden we're like, it's exploded. I think this pandemic has really brought the hunger issue to the forefront, and it is nothing that we ever could have imagined. And so there are so many things that we could be doing and so many avenues to take. And I think we just need a little time to regroup and figure out how do we find out about those government grants and how do we access community grants and money that's out and available.
I'm sorry, Scott.
No,
I just wanted to give Lisa the opportunity to talk about the kinds of government programming or grants that you are able to access.
Right. So, it's sort of an ever-changing landscape I mentioned before that one of the most wonderful benefits has been when funders have offered us the flexibility, right? So, and that is a recognition, and it's the funders that we work with that are really close to the ground, and that know the need for flexibility. The sort of to go back to a little bit of the kind of question of long term, I just wanted to add in that I think that it's going to get more complicated. So, everything shuts down and everyone goes home, and it's kind of, that is one kind of a situation that is everybody sort of seems to be in. But what will happen is as the phasing happens, the different people are going to have different reactions to it. And it also may depend on their age. It may depend on any other vulnerability they may have. If they're having a compromised immune system, if they have a vulnerable person at home that they're caring for. And so what will happen is that some parts of the world are going to open up And some people are going to be on the back end of that. And I think that what we really need to keep in mind is that flexibility. Now that we're here, and now that we're aware, and now that we're really closely connected to our partners and to the people that we serve, we need to stay open and flexible so that we can meet two needs at once: the needs of people that are going back out and the needs of people that are going to be slower to return to sort of quote unquote normal. So I think it's our need to respond is going to get that much more complex.
Very
Jonathan,
good.
do you have any more questions from our viewers?
I don't, but quick. Go ahead, Scott, and then
I've got a good one. Why don't each of you take a minute to tell folks how to contact you, how to donate, how to get services, where to get services. Take a couple minutes each, and please give us the commercial, please. Lisa, you want to go first?
Sure. So Lisa Budlow, it's Chai, and our website is chaibaltimore.org. And we can be contacted also just through our main number, 410-500-5300. We, as part of the Associated system, our donations go through the Associated, and especially currently the Associated Emergency Fund. So I would direct viewers to associated.org. And they also can reach out to JCS, Jewish Community Services, who functions sort of as an information referral system for the Jewish community. One other thing that I would say that isn't specifically Chai related, but the Maryland Access Point is a fantastic resource. So there's a Baltimore City Maryland Access Point. People refer to it as MAP, and a Baltimore County the phone number as well. And people can also call 211. And the beauty of reaching out into those kinds of resources is not only can you get plugged into resources you need where you are in your community, but then the government is able to track needs, and that's helpful as they develop the needed resources going forward.
Very good. Lenny?
So you can check us out on our website, which is www.baltimorehungerproject.org. And I also recommend you check out our social media accounts on Facebook and Instagram. I think we do a really great job of sharing pictures and stories of the work that we're doing and the impact that we're having in the community.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you. I don't have any more questions, Jonathan. Beth, do you have a few more questions?
No, I would just ask, I think we just gave you all, the quick chance to give us your contact info. And is there anything else that you want to say to us, to our viewers, before we wrap it up? Lenny, it looks like you're ready.
Sure. So I would just say that I'm so grateful for the opportunity to be able to share what we do and to let people know that childhood hunger, it's an epidemic, and it's around us, and it's in our neighborhoods, and it's the schools down the street. It's the schools where our kids attended. And I don't know if you know, but studies show kids who don't eat over the weekend, it takes them till Wednesday till they can focus on the's studies. And to me, that's appalling. And I think that we have to do better. All of us collectively, especially today and now's the time for us to do better for everyone. So just thank you for the opportunity to be here.
Very good. Lisa?
Lisa, you want to wrap up?
Sure, absolutely. Echo what Lenny says. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I feel really supported by this program, supported by the community. And I think my message that I would leave people with is something I said before: get connected. The community cares about you, and the community cares about your loved ones, and together we can make a difference. So please reach out, encourage your loved ones to reach out and connect and find the resources that you need.
Very
Well,
good.
thank you. Thank you both, Lisa and Lenny, for being here. And thank you for connecting with us. Thank you for educating us. I know I learned a lot, and I know both of you from before tonight. So it really is important, and to raise the consciousness of everyone in our community. So I'm saying again, I say it many times, to anyone watching this now, please tell your friends to view us after this show. You can find us on YouTube. You can find us on Facebook, and have your friends learn what you've learned tonight. Our next show is on Tuesday at noon. We hope you'll join us. There'll be another important discussion. And also, I want to do a quick reminder, if you haven't already done so, please fill out the census. Everyone's participation is vital because it does affect the amount of money our community receives for critical public services. I also want to invite all of you to join the Associated for our virtual annual meeting on Wednesday, June 17th at 5:30 p.m. Details will follow, as well as some news about some very special guests. So stay tuned for that. And finally, I will say, continue to visit associated.org and jmoreliving.com for more information, stories, and resources. Jonathan, you have anything else?
Yeah, Beth, so actually I have some late programming updates, and as we've been building the program the last few weeks, we've been working to schedule guests out, and Beth and Scott don't even know this, so I want to let you know that next Tuesday, we're going to have a very important show on grieving during COVID-19, and Matt Levinson from Saul Levinson will be joining us along with another guest or two. Next Thursday, we have a show with some wonderful, very committed Jewish retailers. We're going to talk about some of the challenges of being a retailer during COVID-19. And the Tuesday after that, we have our rescheduled show with Dr. Freeman Rabowski from UMBC, who will be joining us. And as Beth said, be sure to visit associated.org, go to jmoreliving.com, sign up for our weekly e-newsletter. And thank you all very much. Beth, Scott?
Well, one comment quickly. If anybody has not heard Freeman Rabowski speak, that is special. He is one of the most motivational, bright human beings on this planet. How many folks do you know that have had a positive story about them on 60 Minutes and been named one of the 1,000 most influential people in the world? I'm not even one of the 1,000 most influential people in my neighborhood. So he used to be my neighbor, and he's just the most incredible guy. So anybody who hasn't heard Freeman speak, this is a special opportunity to have a conversation with him about how the epidemic is affecting his school and other schools around the country, but probably a broader range of topics as well. So I hope everybody will listen to that show or watch that show and enjoy it like I expect to.
Okay, Beth, Scott?
Thanks, everybody, and please be well.
Thank you.